The first all 7nm AMD laptop from MSI. How does this perform? Let's check it out. Hello everyone and welcome back again to Junkyard Summit. Today we're taking a look at the all-new MSI Bravo 15 A4 DDR202PH laptop. This is one of the few notebooks that features an all-AMD setup, and it also has their 7nm technology for both its CPU and GPU. The Bravo 15 is also MSI's second iteration on this kind of setup, wherein the first one is called the Alpha 15. Their naming scheme follows the NATO phonetic alphabet, and we should expect that their next model should be named Charlie 15. The Bravo 15 also uses the same chassis for their GS lineup, and so expect that it should be slimmer and less bulkier as compared to the Alpha 15. The model that I have here today features the Ryzen 7 4800H, which is an 8-core 16-thread CPU that is based on the 7nm Zen 2 architecture. GPU for this model is the RX 5500M, which is AMD's mid-range mobile GPU that is also based on the 7nm RDNA architecture. A lower spec Bravo 15 is also available, where it features the 6-core 12-thread Ryzen 5 4600H and the RX 5300M mobile GPU. Other spec for today's model includes a 16GB of DDR4 memory clocked at 3200 MHz, which is, by the way, can be upgraded up until 64GB. Storage features 512 gigs of Western Digital SN530 NVMe drive with sequential read speeds of 2400 megabytes per second and write speeds of 1750 megabytes per second. Not the fastest out there, but should be fast enough for your day-to-day usage and gaming. Panel for this setup is a 144Hz IPS panel, which is a step up as compared to the Bravo 15 outside of the country. And by the way, it's also FreeSync Premium certified, meaning tear-free gaming on your notebook is now possible, and at the same time, the side bezels of the panel are thin enough that helps in the overall modern looks of the laptop. Color accuracy and peak brightness are beyond my testing capabilities as of the moment, but according to notebookcheck.net, this 144Hz panel should be capable of 300 nits of brightness. sRGB is at 86%, while Adobe RGB is at 63%. Gray-to-gray response is also at 16 milliseconds. Being an IPS panel, comparing this with my older Lenovo TN panel laptop is like night and day. And while on paper, the panel itself looks underwhelming, on actuality, this is a decent enough screen for most gamers out there, which is, by the way, the target market of the Bravo 15. Price for this kind of setup is at 70,000 Philippine peso, with the only difference of having a single 8GB memory instead. Though I am somewhat disappointed that they didn't go with a 16GB dual channel memory setup like the model that I have here, especially at this kind of price point. Going to the laptop's I/O, the Bravo 15 covers most of it besides having a memory card slot. On the right hand side, we got the audio jack, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port and 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type C port. A gigabit LAN port is also on this side, and lastly a Kensington lock. On the left side, we got the charging port as well as an HDMI 1.4 port. An exhaust vent can also be found here as well as two in the back side of the laptop. Cutouts of these exhaust vents are decent and should not have any problems with dissipating hot air out. Speaking of hot air, this laptop has a total of 6 copper heat pipes to cool the CPU, GPU, and its VRAM. 2 fans are also present in this laptop, wherein one is in charge of the CPU while the other one is for the GPU. Other components under the hood are the 2 bottom-firing 2-watt speaker, SODIMM slots that can be upgraded to a max of 64 gigs of DDR4 memory, 2 M.2 slots where one of these can only support NVMe PCIe Gen 3, while the other one supports both NVMe as well as SATA-based M.2. Besides our storage slot, we can see the Intel AX200 for an amazing Wi-Fi 6 wireless experience. A 51-watt 3-cell battery is also located on the bottom. Not too sure about their decision on this one, but I was hoping for even at least 60-watt-hour battery on a gaming notebook like this. Going back outside, a 720p 30fps webcam is also located at the top of the screen, and performance is a bit like this. The webcam is decent and should be more than enough for your online meetings and online classes. I'm just not too sure if Windows Hello is supported on this laptop. Keyboard of the Bravo 15 is not from SteelSeries, but it has a very similar feel as compared to my previous tested laptop, the MSI GL63. And overall travel distance and actuation is good, and you should not have any problems adjusting to it. Basic function keys are included, and unfortunately, media keys besides volume adjustment are not present. Illumination is just limited to red with 4 levels of brightness adjustment. While the keyboard gets my approval, the plastic touchpad on the other hand feels cheap. This is especially noticeable to users who likes to do tap navigation. Tapping around the touchpad does a sort of fake click feel wherein the plastic bottoms out up until the actual click button, which is really annoying for me. I'm not too sure if this is intentional or not, but seriously, MSI should fix or change this. The redeeming factor for this one is that it supports Windows Precision drivers for your touchpad gestures. For CPU benchmark, we can see that the Ryzen 7 4800H is a beast of processor, even comparable to desktop CPU. Single-core boost clocks can reach as high as 4200 MHz, while sustained all-core boost is around at 3500 MHz for high settings, 3200 MHz for the medium setting, and 2600 MHz for the low. I went with the user-defined setting on the MSI Dragon Control app so I can manually control the fan speed for each setup. Cinebench R20 reaches over 4000 score for multi-core testing, and this result is close to a stock Ryzen 7 3700X desktop CPU. Blender on the other hand beats the i7 8th Gen easily at the same power envelope. Geekbench paints the same picture, though I am currently comparing this with an 8th Gen Intel. 9th Gen and 10th Gen i7 parts should perform close to this one with a small performance uplift. Overall, the 7nm Ryzen mobile CPU is a big threat to Intel's current 14nm laptop H parts, and it's nice to see that there is competition again in the laptop space. Gaming on this machine is great, even though the RX 5500M is just an entry to mid-level GPU. It's strong enough to run most esports titles close to 144Hz on max settings, while a good number of AAA titles was able to run above 60 FPS even on high settings. And since the Bravo 15 is FreeSync Premium certified, expect tear-free gaming as long as your FPS is within the FreeSync range, which I think is around 60 to 144Hz. Just a quick tip though, when you are playing R6 Siege on this machine, I'd suggest using the DX11 API as I'm getting an average of 130 average FPS as compared to Vulkan wherein I'm capping at 110 FPS. Also surprisingly, the RX 5500M in this model that I'm currently testing boosts beyond AMD's recommended spec, wherein the rated speed is only at 1645 MHz, but this unit of mine boosts to as high as 1665 MHz with a sustained clocks at around 1655 to 1660 MHz. This should be good in most cases, but due to the high temperature nature of this notebook, turn this feature more like of a double-edged sword. For one, extra performance, especially for our GPU, is a great addition, but overall temps also suffered, especially here in the Philippines where ambient room temps are always around 30 to 33 degrees Celsius. Battery performance is decent by the way for casual use, but I do suggest to plug the charger in when gaming, as not only you'll get small battery life on it, but at the same time gaming performance is not good on battery mode. Let us now discuss the weakest part of these laptops, which is its thermals. On my 28 degrees Celsius room, when running Cinebench R20, temps reach as high as 95 degrees Celsius when running the high performance mode, while a slightly lower score at medium setting, but at the same time we are now down to 84 degrees Celsius, which is 11 degrees Celsius cooler. Using the low performance mode, we now dip to as low as 50% penalty in the multi-core score, but temps are on a very manageable 60 degrees Celsius. I would suggest running the system on medium performance for everyday usage and only shift it to high when doing some intensive tasks on a short time frame. Use low on the other hand when gaming, as single-core boosts are pretty much unaffected on this setup and we are getting way better temps as running on high. Only trade-off is a 5 to 10% penalty in gaming performance, but for me that is justifiable as our CPU temps decreased from 100 degrees Celsius down to 83 degrees Celsius. I also added a few more games running different setup for today's testing. But I did encounter a bug wherein the GPU clocks are locked at 400 MHz, sometimes when running low performance mode, and the only solution for this one is to do a reset on your laptop. This only happened twice on my 2-week period, and I was not able to replicate the scenario, so I am not too sure what is the culprit behind this. So the big question now is, who is the Bravo 15 for? Color accuracy is not stellar, so content creators would not want this unless they will be working on a dedicated monitor. Serious gamers on the other hand would want a stronger GPU to run newer demanding game titles easily. I do feel though that the Bravo 15 best suits work from home people, especially IT professionals wherein they need to run multiple virtual machines, faster compile times, better number crunching tasks, but at the same time would still want to relax and do some gaming at the end of the day. This is also applicable to aspiring and current architects and engineers, as the Ryzen 7 4800H would definitely help in their AutoCAD, SketchUp, and MATLAB tasks. As for my take, this might not be the best laptop out there, but kudos to MSI for offering alternative laptop setups, as for the longest time now, all we've been seeing are Intel Nvidia pairing for gaming notebooks. I just do wish that MSI could have done a more rigorous testing in terms of improving the temps, as like what the others suggested, having vents directly below the cooler could potentially help in cooling both the CPU and GPU. And like what I said a while ago, as for me, this is the weakest point of the Bravo 15. I also do hope that MSI would just include the extra 8GB of RAM, just like in this reviewer model that I have, as dual channel setup on Ryzen CPUs have a significant improvement as compared to single channel. At the same time, looking for those similarly spec'd memory is not easy, especially for those non-tech users. I also do like to see a Ryzen 5 4600H paired with the RX 5500M for a lower powered but still powerful setup without too much compromise in its gaming performance. And for those too long didn't watch viewers out there, here is a quick summary for you guys. For the good, this laptop features a powerful Ryzen processor with impressive I/O selections. This also has a 144Hz FreeSync IPS panel with nice keyboard layout and proper dual channel memory with good memory speed, assuming that the reviewer laptop will be the same with our retail setup. For the needs improvement part, the charger could be smaller, as the 180-watt power brick is a bit too much for our system, and it could even get away with just a 150-watt power brick. Battery capacity could also be bigger, and at the same time, color accuracy for the panel could also be better. Though not that of a big deal, keyboard flex is noticeable when typing on this laptop, and finally, price could be a bit cheaper. I do think that this is a very competitive laptop if ever it is priced at around 65,000 Philippine peso. As for the bad parts of the laptop, there are only two. One is the temps, and the other one is the improvement for the touchpad. So yeah, I think that's it for today's video. What are your thoughts about the MSI Bravo 15? Comment it down below, and if you find this video helpful and informative, go hit that like button and also do subscribe to my channel for more laptop reviews like this. Once again, this is Brain of Junkyard Summit. Thank you, stay safe, and see you in the next one.